Mr. Fuller, when you began constructing the code, you started off with 6 pages and then ended up with over 1,300 and then curtailed to just over 400. Is there any way to obtain the missing pages?
Well, no, they're scattered all over the place. A lot of people, I used to pass out pages, really. That's all it was, just pages. I didn't intend to write a book. When I started writing the compensatory code back in 1957, I was writing those first 6 pages for me. Why was I doing that? Because I was confused about things, and I didn't know what to do about any situation that I was in. I had a head full of questions and no answers, and nobody was giving me answers to questions. And it was upsetting me to no end because it was causing problems. So I said, I'm going to work out a code about what to do once I find out what is the best thing to do or what I think is the best thing. I'm going to produce a code about what to do and what to say in every instance, particularly about racial matters, so that I won't get into a head-scratching thing. I never approved of that cartoon of the black person scratching his head. Question marks all over, all around on a cartoon. Black person, eyes bugged, and finger scratching the top of his head trying to get that brain to work. Because the brain just won't work. The brain can't come up with what? Answers to questions. Answers to questions about what? How to solve problems, that's what. Because we all have problems. So that goes back, that's an ancient thing. Black person scratching his head. Trying to figure out what's going on. Always bewildered about everything, confused about everything. So I started writing a code. And I started putting it into practice, what I was writing after I had to do some thinking first. The thought comes first. And it took some thinking. What do I do when I'm sitting at the chow table? That's what we call it in the military, having chow. And this white guy makes what you call an N-word joke. I mean, do I jump up and get mad, say I'm supposed to punch him out and whatnot, and tell him put him on report and all this? What do I do? What's the best thing to do? What's the most constructive thing to do? Out of all the millions of things to do, what's the best one? And once I latched on to that type of philosophy, trying to find out what's the best thing to do in every situation, regardless of what that situation is, because I came to the conclusion, after a whole lot of thinking, that all situations may have 1,000 things that you can do. But suppose you came up with a way of figuring out what's the best thing to do, that nobody in the world in a million years will ever come up with a better thing to say or a better thing to do in this particular instance. And that's the ideology of codification. Always figuring out what's the best thing to do or say under every circumstance. And once I latched on to that philosophy, I mean, I struck on something, in my opinion. And I think that if anybody adopts that, I mean, changes will come. They automatically will. If you just say, what's the best thing to do about this situation I'm in today that's causing me all these problems? I mean, out of all the millions of things to do, what is the best thing out of 1 million things? 1 million things. That takes some thinking.